Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Anthony, I am downright peachy this morning. How are
I've
you?
changed my morning routine this morning.
Yeah, what is your
I'm switching from coffee to green tea with ginger. And when I had my first sip, I was like, man, I need this in my life.
I don't think it's even it's too early. It's too early to do it. It's you know what really works well on podcasts is inside jokes that we do because everybody,
Our
all
guest,
five
you
people
can't see her
listen.
backstage, but she's buckled over laughing. So
Yeah, no, she's looking
that
at
was an
us
inside
like
joke, everybody.
shaking her head, just looking at us like. I will say, okay, you get bonus points, and now the competition's
I
over.
win. Yeah.
Thanks for letting us play, Anthony. Anthony, how many businesses are unknowingly funding competitors' growth through misguided marketing spend? In 1885, John Wanamaker, good name, John Wanamaker, a Philadelphia merchant, revolutionized retail marketing by introducing the money back guarantee and price tags, yet famously complained, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. Today's digital landscape makes this challenge even more complex, and countless businesses are burning through budgets without understanding true ROI. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about maximizing marketing spend. I'm Chris Franks. With me is the dad joke connoisseur, the pun master himself, Mr. Anthony Franco. And today we are joined by Amber Gaige, a seasoned marketing strategist, international best-selling author, and founder of Far Beyond Marketing with over 20 years experience, which can't be any older than 35, Amber. So that's incredible. That Amber helping entrepreneurs simplify their marketing and achieve real measurable results. She's the author of Far Beyond Marketing Guidebook, Stop Being Duped by Bad Marketing, and the creators of the 4 C's of Effective Marketing Framework. Amber, thank you. Welcome. It is great to see you. Sorry for just continuing the bad jokes this morning, but it is terrific to have you on the show. Let's just start with the very broad thing. You work with founders. You've seen us. Do we tend to waste a bunch of money on marketing? Is that something
Oh
you
my
see?
gosh. Every single day I talk to a founder who is fed up with bad marketing. I think we all need transparency in our lives, with or without gender. But I just want to say that, bad marketing just sucks. So yeah, not wasting money on bad marketing. You don't need that.
Done. I'm not even going to try to say the word I needed in my life and gender in the same sense. Like, you guys are just one. Both of you. I feel like, Amber, I feel like you need to tell the story now because, to all 7 of our listeners, do you want to tell it?
I mean, I can. The abbreviated clean version is keynote speaking yesterday, creepy guy in the audience, misused the phrase, I need a ginger in my life, to which I said, bye, not interested, personal problem, peace out.
And that's how you met Anthony Franco. It's so lovely to have you, though, that you still came.
How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly right. All right, so we tend to waste marketing. The problem is, this is the classic question, which is we know that half of our marketing dollars are wasted. We just don't know what half. How should we be thinking about this big challenge of marketing and marketing spend early, particularly in our companies? And then how should we think about it as we grow?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you should never start marketing without a plan. Right? That's like taking a shotgun.
We started a podcast without a plan, so it's pretty much the same, though, right? Like, there's no.
Is it going good? Yeah.
How's that going for you, Chris?
Touche. Yeah, well played. So we should start with a plan. Continue.
You should always have a plan when it comes to your marketing, and it's something that you really can't predict because marketing, there is no silver bullet when it comes to marketing. You're not going to find one. But if you begin with the understanding that you have a goal in mind for these dollars that you're allocating, then you're already ahead of the game. So making sure that you understand what your goal is, whether you are wanting to gain more market share, more customers, more visits to your website, and then that you've got a methodology for tracking whatever outcome you're going for, that puts you ahead of most.
I mean, what you just described is such a simple component, but Anthony, we tend to miss as founders so much. Well, you got to market. Great. Well, so let's go buy some Facebook ads or something like that. I mean, it's just the idea of making sure that you understand the goal. And I think, Amber, what you're saying is some sort of interim goal between being a billionaire. Like, hey, start company, I've got a goal and it's just to be rich, but you need to understand what steps are going to go before you get there. Right. Is that true, Anthony? Like, is that something where you,
I'm struggling. I'm struggling with, you have to have a goal only because, well, there's different kinds of marketing, right? There's marketing that brings leads in, and there's marketing that's for brand awareness. And then there's marketing that's designed to convert. But all of it boils down to one fundamental goal, which is profitable revenue, growing profitable revenue. So why isn't that my goal? Why can't I just, my plan is to grow profitable revenue. And if that's your plan, it's kind of like, duh, like, of course that's your goal. I guess what I'm asking, Amber, is like, why isn't it that simple? Why can't my goal just be that? And then instead of talking about what your goal is like, how do I as a founder get there?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all of our goals, right? We didn't get into business so that we could not make money. I mean, I guess if you're a nonprofit, but maybe I'm not that nice of a person. But anyway, I think if the goal is net profit, that's awesome. But how are you going to get there is really the question that we're asking. So
that's exactly like how. Chris and I are like, how do we do this?
Right. So I mean, if you're studying on marketing, then you need to understand how this plan, this element of marketing, whether it's Facebook ads, Google ads, a postcard, whatever, is going to get you closer to that goal of more profits for your company. So, the point is, who is your customer? Who are you trying to reach? What are you selling them? Taking a breath, taking time to actually sit there and go, hold up. My goal is I want to sell 15 more widgets to 8 more gingers in a 30-day period of time. You're welcome.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah,
well then,
there we go. In my life.
Yeah, in your life, Chris. Then that means that you need to target these people with this widget in this time period, instead of just, hey, this looks like a really fun thing to market. Let's throw some money at it and cross our fingers and hope it gets us more revenue.
Is that what you see most founders do? Is just
all the time.
That's so depressing. I wish I had some.
It's just happening.
There's a stat I'm looking at here that says that 76% of small businesses report wasting money on ineffective marketing channels. And so if you're saying like, okay, so if we understand the first thing is that we need to identify our goal. We need to say what it is, how are we going to get there? And so, classically, if you're any sort of online business, you want to try to get traffic to your website first. It's the first and most important goal. If you're a retail store, you want to get people to walk in your door. So those types of high level goals, is that what we're talking about first? Like what is that early part of the conversion event? Is that a good way to frame it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then asking whoever the provider is of that marketing, how are you intending to get me closer to my goal? Like when I'm working with a restaurant, like a fast food restaurant, and they're doing takeout at lunchtime, we're going to geofence people that are coming to that restaurant. And we're going to hit them with ads to boost foot traffic, to get people to order the burger and walk back to the office. Like that is a tactical based plan in line with, I need to sell 20 more burgers per day to get me this much more revenue, right? And then by contrast, if you're a service provider Anthony's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like, what? Why would you even think
No,
about
I'm thinking you just need to. I'll come in and buy 5 burgers, so I'm an easy target.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Or we just find one Anthony, Amber. We don't need 5 more customers. We just need one Anthony. Right?
Motive was to find all the Anthony's
Yeah,
and just
right.
all day long. Here you go. Yeah.
So here's the bigger problem though, which is we start with this idea, like, okay, we understand. Let's try to drive incremental revenue. Let's try to figure out what our goal is. And like we said, start with that early. Like, what is the first step of a conversion?
Yeah.
The problem is that we're now living in this environment where marketing and including most of the shit that you see. Sorry, Anthony, I'm sorry, I cussed. The stuff that you see, I get so angry about this stuff. The stuff you see on YouTube and the social media people, which is they hype tactics. It's like, it's all about Facebook ads today. It's like, if you're not doing, some sort of sequential retargeting, then you're not really, doing it. So they lead with tactics without really truly understanding any strategy to get you there.
Yes.
And so this becomes, I think, part of the noise in the environment, which confuses founders to such a degree. How do you approach this? How do we start solving this problem?
Well, no one knows your business like you, the founder, right? So listening to the chatter and the noise without putting it through the filter of, does this apply to my business and my target audience, is a crucial component. If you know that your target audience is between the age of 16 and 20, then advertise on TikTok all day long. Have fun with that. Cool. But if your target audience is between the age of 45 and 60, maybe you need a Loopies coupon. I mean, I'm being sarcastic here, but you know what I mean? Like, match the advertising to the target audience and think about how you're going to fulfill it in your company. Just because it's the latest and greatest craze does not mean it's a good fit for your business or line of work.
And this is classically, we call it personas in the world that I came up in. But one of the challenges, Anthony, is that we don't always know. Like, people come in with technology, and this is, we hopefully people have listened to us and not created solutions in search of problems or markets. But how do you go through and start to think about which types of people might be a good fit for your product or service when you're founding a company?
Yeah. So you need to look at, so was that question for me or Anthony?
I was going to send it to Anthony, but he could just send it.
Go ahead, Amber. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'll go you, Anthony, and then I'll have you react, Amber. Go.
Okay. All right.
So I'm struggling with the answer, Chris, because every company's different, and we fundamentally come down to, we do you do the work on persona. This is who we're targeting. This is the message that's what we think is going to resonate with them. Then we start building, a marketing plan, and wind up throwing a bunch of money in a trash can with gasoline and lighting on fire.
Well, God, can I be your marketer? Like, that would be great. I'll just take 10% of that.
The problem comes down to a few things. One, there's the attribution system for marketing is fundamentally broken online. There's no way to attribute a marketing effort really back to a sale. It's very, very complicated. You go Facebook, Google, LinkedIn ads, in-person marketing, all the things that you try. There's no way to really connect. Like, this thing, it's that half. I still don't know, with all the technology and all the tracking and all the cookies and all the blocking that is happening around that I still can't tell what dollar spent is the most effective. And so I feel like the only thing that has ever worked for me is the shotgun approach. You throw a bunch of things on the wall, and you go with what sticks. And I just don't like that as the answer, but that's fundamentally what I always wind up doing. So I'm hoping Amber can tell me that that's not the right, like, here's how you make that
Amber's gonna
easier.
solve this
Here's how you
problem
should
for
think
right
about
now.
it better.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like that answer either. In fact, that just depresses me as a I don't need that in my life. No.
Exactly right.
I think,
Yeah.
Well, Amber, tell us the better way. What's the better way?
all right, leave it to the ginger. I'm going to tell you a better way, Anthony. I think you have to look at the general trajectory of your sales given a period of time. I think that a huge problem that we have as founders is we try and attribute last click or last phone call with one subset of marketing. And that in and of itself is totally flawed. You are right, Anthony. You're going to drive yourself back crap crazy. If you're like, well, I invested in this marketing for 45 days and I got 7 phone calls, so therefore this marketing didn't work. Well, no. Did your sales lift in that 45 days? Like, let's look at the general trajectory of how the company is performing. And then if you're talking about the offer and the demographic, what is the product that you are selling during that time period? If you are selling one specific widget or hamburger, as we talked about earlier, and you're advertising it in this marketing tactic, then you know who's gonna bite. You know who's most likely to buy that product or service because you're the freaking founder. You know who is most likely to do business with you, right? We all know that because we've been in business for a hot minute. So what problem or service does your product solve for your client? And did your revenue go up during this period of time? And if you can merge a period of time with a marketing tactic, with a clear demographic, you will get clarity about whether or not this marketing is working. And by the way, fun fact, with AI and real-time learning algorithms and data science, and yes, I'm nerding out here a little bit, you have insights available to see exactly who's biting and coming to your website and what pages they're on.
Anthony, I think that we now have, we said we don't have t-shirts or stickers. I think we need to invest in t-shirts and stealing Amber's slogan, like, you're the freaking founder. Like, that's just it. That's the slogan.
You're the freaking founder.
You're the freaking founder.
Yeah.
You're the freaking founder, man. You got to know. All right. So, Amber, I think I understand at this point, which is the first thing I need to do, start to really get granular about what my goal is, who I want to be talking to. Next is to understand that, classically, I apologize for this, but when I came up in the world of growth marketing, we could get click level attribution, and then people got real creeped out. And so we lost that ability. I'll take full responsibility for the entire problem. Everybody that did that, because we got a little creepy. And there's some really screwy stories, including this is a true story, Amber, that there's a guy who targeted his roommate on Facebook ads. Did you hear about that?
No, I haven't.
They tried to make it disappear because it was such a crazy thing. They got so granular early on in the world of Facebook ads that this guy was just testing, and he started to be like, "Are you named so and so? And do you have a pet?" And this guy thought that he was going crazy. So anyway, it was fun.
Pretty stalker.
So he targeted true micro targeting of his roommate. Yeah. He targeted one person in New York City. But then we need to start to say, hey, look, at the end of this, we know it's very, very rarely one killer marketing tactic that's going to work. And I think that's a big mind shift. And it's something that was different from even when I was coming up, which was the perfect ad at the perfect time and the perfect platform to the perfect person will drive the perfect results. And that's no longer true. Not just because you can't do click level attribution, but also because you really genuinely need to try to surround your customer with messages. Did I summarize that accurately?
Yeah, I think you did. And I think in some platforms, click level attribution is still available. But if you look at that solely as the basis of success, then you're taking a narrow-minded approach, right? So when we're talking about the general lift of the business and surrounding customers with your messaging, studies right now are showing that it is taking 43 interactions with an ad before a customer clicks. 43 interactions. So this idea of having to surround your customer with your branding is a longevity, right? It's a play. So I tell my clients, look, it's like a 7-layer chocolate cake. You got to get all bites. You got all 7 layers. You need the frosting, you need the branding, you need the clicks, you need the direct mail. Marketing strategy is comprehensive, and tactics are not a substitution for a strategy.
That might be my t-shirt. Yeah, marketing tactics, and it's really genuinely such an important point, because the number one thing I see founders get wrong, Anthony, is this simple problem, which is they confuse tactics with strategy. Oh, I'm just going to go run some pay-per-click ads, because at one point running pay-per-click ads was sufficient, right? You could figure that out, but don't really truly understand who they're talking to and how they're going to get in front of them. Does that resonate, Anthony?
Yeah, it definitely resonates, but I'm still like, so the title of this episode is "Stop Wasting Money on Paid Media," and
yeah, so do guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, so I mean, just bluntly, can you give us some tactics, Amber, on how do we stop waste? Where's the waste coming from, and how do I start spending money more effectively?
If you wouldn't mind, let me just break that down into a slightly smaller question. So
yeah, thank you.
I do want to get there, but I want to go through kind of the 3 parts of this, which is the first one. What story am I trying to tell here? How do you think about messaging and positioning in this environment where it is, to your point, just so noisy? We're being bombarded with so many messages, and our competitors they're out there being loud as well. So start there, and then I want to get individual as far as tactics and measurements.
Yeah. So what message are you sending? In other words, what problem are you solving for your clients? Who is your client? If you don't want to waste money on digital marketing, then you better know who you're targeting online, right? Because not everyone is your customer. That's child's play. When we start our companies, we are desperate for business, and we take everything and everyone. But studies show us that statistically speaking, the more narrow you are with your niche, the more you can charge, right? And the clearer you get with your offerings. So who do you want to target? Choose a digital platform that allows for hyper targeting. Get that offer in line with the customer you're trying to serve. And then be patient and watch the trends, and keep in mind that you are probably not going to move the needle with just one digital advertising campaign. It is going to be a combined effect of your digital media with your guerrilla marketing, with your follow-up. This is where it comes in the 4 C's that I talk about in my book. It's not enough just to do a tactic. As Chris said, you've got to have clear copy, clear vision of your customer demographic, a rinse and repeat strategy for upselling. Your marketing is directly impacted by the strategy that you have in place.
Okay, so I understand I've got to have a clear message. I've gotten very, very narrow. And Anthony, again, I think this is the one piece where founders, we struggle with this one narrowing portion, because it's the fear of saying, if we walk through this door and target this one customer, the one that's actually going to be our big, money maker is behind us. And so I want to kind of hedge bets. But Amber, what you're saying is hedging bets is a terrible idea, right?
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. So you really want to just pick a lane, get narrow, figure out what channel or channels will reach that market, right? And that's generally the decision around which channel you use. It's not about which channel I like to use. It's which channel you think is going to reach that individual demographic. Is that fair?
Right. Absolutely. Because now you've created yourself a tool that you have control over. If you're constantly throwing it up against the wall and seeing if it sticks, you don't know what you should turn on or turn off when your revenue is falling short in Q1 versus when it's streaming really high in Q4. Clarity by tactic on a line item level is huge when running a marketing budget. But vision and understanding that the cumulative effect of these tactics is what drives your revenue forward has to be a balanced approach to making these decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. The other piece that I want to talk about, just asking. So if we get narrow and we go after an individual market, let's say, narrowing our market focus, and then we use individual tactics on that. There is particularly early 3 or 4 potential markets we could go after.
Sure.
So let's say that I narrow this, and for some time I go after this, and I hear you, which is I need to be patient enough to understand whether or not that's actually going to work or not. And I probably screwed this one up a lot too in my path, but how long do I need to wait? And then how do I B test that? So if that's the A test, what is the secondary test that I can do?
Yeah, I'd recommend testing things for a minimum of 90 days. You need time for things to scale. You need time to set things up, and you need time to let it run. So minimum 90 days, 120 is wonderful if you can. And then the B test is if you're not seeing what you want, but you still believe in the tactic, change up your offer. Is it an offer? Is it a targeting? Or is it a tactic? These are all elements that you can decide based upon what you see happening with that digital marketing, right? If you're seeing an influx of visitors come to your website, but they're not clicking, well, what's the offer on the website? Maybe you should put a different coupon on there. You know what I mean?
How do you think about tweaking stuff? So Anthony, I just think classically, almost every founder I work with, I tell them like, hey, if you want to go do an ad test, do it, and then leave it alone. And none of them do. They go in there and they're like, oh, I got to click from Des Moines. Like it's that the idea of leaving an ad, alone is really hard. How do you develop the discipline, Anthony, just to be like, okay, Amber's telling us to completely walk away from this, and then Amber react by saying, when do you change?
You're asking the wrong schmo here, Chris, because I have very little appetite. And I've just seen patience. Very few people. No, it's not patience. I've suffered so much from Google and Facebook and LinkedIn taking so much of my ad dollars that I'm like, I don't trust anything that the platforms are literally set up for bad marketers to make a lot of money from bad marketers.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And they're not your friend. And then when something becomes effective, they change the algorithm and you have to start over from scratch. Like I'm almost like, I want tactics where I don't have to rely on digital ad platforms because they're all set up against you.
Oh, dear diary. In the most
I know I'm right. I know I'm not the only person that feels this way.
You're not.
I know I'm not.
You're not.
It can be frustrating, but also, Amber, we are, yes, it's the noisiest environment of all time, but for a modern marketer, a modern founder, we have more tools available to us than ever before. Right? Mm-hmm. It should be a moment of empowerment, I think, but react to that.
No, it's not. It's not a moment of empowerment. It's a moment of mass confusion of where do I put my dollars to be most effective. It is so confusing on where to put dollars. In the thing that Amber said is like spend 90 to 120 days to let a campaign work. That could be a lot of money and a lot of opportunity cost. So that gives me heartburn.
Just turn this into like a therapy session for Anthony.
Yes, please.
Tell us how advertising makes you feel.
I need a hug.
Yeah.
Journal.
Yeah.
Journal.
I've had a little bit of trauma here. I apologize.
Talk Anthony up at Cliff Amber. Like talk him back from the edge.
Okay. Let's put the pen down and let's back away. And back away slowly.
Slowly back up.
Step away from Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. Okay. Right. We're gonna break deep. No, the truth of the matter is that Anthony is absolutely right. It is maddening and it is frustrating when you feel like you are being held hostage by these digital platforms and you're not getting your money's worth. The great news is that through data science and technology, there are other opportunities out there. There are other ways to run ads online and track them that allows you to have good third-party data, as long as you have a great digital marketing vendor who's willing to shoot straight with you and be transparent and peel back the curtain and not pretend to be the Wizard of Oz, right? So yes, you could spend a small fortune over 90 days and waste it all, or you could deliberately choose to use a subset of your marketing budget for a subset of your products or services for a subset of time, and understand that you are taking a risk and it may or may not work. If it does work though, be committed to diversify and run a parallel campaign with a different offer. And again, making sure that you have the tracking in place before you pull that trigger, right? Line up the shot. When I'm in a deer blind and I'm going hunting, I got to make sure that the crosshairs are lined up on the neck of the deer at 120 yards before I drop it. Yes, it's a hunting thing. Yes, I do this every fall.
I was going to say, Amber, let me translate because I speak redneck. What she's saying Anthony, if I gave you venison, Anthony, would you freak out? Like,
does he know what
venison is?
No.
Deer.
Yeah.
I am way more of a redneck than you are, Chris.
That I would have a hard time believing. But I feel like we could turn this whole thing into like a redneck off. Amber, would you just take over as the host and we'll just all right. So Amber, where we've gotten to, starting narrow, make sure that you understand who you're trying to target, make sure that you have a plan. What are your early indicators as far as success goes? What are you going to be tracking to make sure that you're on the right track? And then this is the piece I think that Anthony, we were talking about, which is if have an early indicator, have a middle indicator, have a third indicator, meaning that you could have the right channel and it could be working, just not the right website or conversion pathways or offer, to your point. So understanding how you can track each of those steps of the buying process, which Amber, like none of it's rocket science. It's just, are they aware? Are they considering? Are they making a purchase? And then make sure you have some sort of a framework to test and measure. But really, Amber, what you're saying is the patience then to not go in and tweak. Let's talk about one final point before we go to the speed round, which is how much, like what should I be thinking about as a founder? How much should I be thinking about spending here? We don't have a lot of money. There are a lot of bootstrapped people. Is it okay to spend a really small amount over that period of time to try to get answers back before I start to ramp up my spend?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where the life cycle of a business comes into play. We all know that in an ideal world, when you're trying to grow a business, a marketing expenditure as a whole should be between 12 and 15% of gross annual revenue. Yikes, that's a lot of money. But if you are in growth mode, you are going to have to invest in marketing to grow your business. Now, as you stabilize and your company is on a forward trajectory, but you're not in hyper growth mode, I would say between 8 and 10% of your annual gross revenue would be a healthy marketing budget to allocate.
So, Anthony, as I'm just getting started, I don't have revenue, but how would you just take that, Anthony, based on her recommendation and project to say, hey, look, I've got, $200 in the bank. I'm going to spend 8 to 12% of that.
Well, I don't. So I'm going to challenge those numbers just a bit, just because if you're selling, for example, if you're selling a consumer product on Amazon, right? 8 to 10% is nowhere near enough, right?
If you're selling a product on Amazon, let me tell you. First of all, you'll need to spend more money. You got to be a millionaire to make $1 billion.
No, it's just it is so. There's some supplement companies. Their customer acquisition cost is 2 times the product the first product's revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really expensive in some industries to acquire customers.
Oh yeah.
It's there's factors of what's your gross margin and where you're selling and all of those things. But in general, I don't have I'm still struggling with an answer on this, Chris. Like I'm still not in a place where I feel where I can just go execute a strategy to not burn a ton of money on paid marketing. Still struggling with it.
I think this is the other point that Amber was saying, which is, and this is obviously from a guy that used to get paid to help, particularly early stage companies, create marketing strategies. Is Amber, you got to find a partner here. You're not supposed to know about this as a founder. It's a full-time job and then some. It's vastly complicated, right?
It is. And you should not prematurely dip your toe into digital marketing. I mean, I turn clients away all the time. I'm like, you're not ready. You are not well positioned for digital marketing. You are positioned for guerrilla marketing. You are positioned for localized marketing, maybe some postcards, some direct mail, some email marketing. But marketing, again, is multifaceted. So understanding these key components that Anthony just mentioned, like gross margin, hugely important. So don't spend money on Amazon initially. Spend money at the local trade show booth or at the farmer's market. I mean, come on, let's get scrappy here. I was joking about going to have a secondary brand. I would call it Scrappy Girl Marketing, because you have to be really, really scrappy with marketing initially before you're ready to diversify into some of these other overarching platforms. So start
that resonates. Yeah,
there.
that resonates.
All right. We're going to go into the speed round.
Nice.
Took it over. Didn't even try to let you try it this time.
Perfect.
All right, Amber, the speed round. Start with paid search or something else entirely.
Start with paid search or something else entirely? Something else entirely. Don't start with paid search.
We just sort of talked about this, but do I start in-house or do I go try to find an agency even early in my journey?
How much money do you have?
That's a good question. Brand awareness campaigns or direct response? This is a good one.
Ooh, direct response initially. You need money.
Yeah, exactly. Short form, really quick hit, or am I trying to build a multifaceted funnel at this stage?
Oh man, these are such good questions depending on the industry. I'm going to go clarity over clever. So short and clear.
I like it. Daily
clarity over clever.
Mm-hmm.
That could be another t-shirt. I feel like, Amber, you should pivot your company into t-shirts. Like you've got.
Well, I'm neither, so I'm struggling with that one.
Daily, weekly, or monthly marketing tracking. How much do I watch the pot to see if it's boiling, Amber?
D, all the above.
All the above. I like it. Anthony, I just want to throw a dad joke to you and Amber. And here's a joke for all you mind readers out there.
I missed it. Did you get it?
I find that so funny. I find that joke just so funny. It's crazy. Anthony, what did we learn from today's episode other than the fact that I shouldn't tell dad jokes? Go ahead.
I wrote down some really very basic fundamentals that I feel like are too basic. But what I got was you have to know who your customer is. You have to know what problem you're solving. You have to know what message is going to resonate with them. And you got to find the platform where you're going to rise above the noise. That seems too basic, but I've got other things like think in marketing efforts as campaigns and give things 90 to 120 days to work through. What I wanted was you've been doing it wrong.
You have.
I wanted somebody to say you've been doing it wrong, and I probably still am, but I mean, this is hard. Like, there's no easy button for this. I guess that's the fundamental. There's no easy button for this. You've got to just grind it out. And before you go with paid, I think the biggest piece is before you go with paid, go talk to your customers directly at farmers markets or trade shows, or, as Amber said, get gritty, and which might be a little bit of a hack to understand how to message them online. But that's all I got.
I think it's good. I think one of the major takeaways, Amber, and this is counterintuitive in our world because we're so used to being able to do quick tactics, test, is that you do have to take, even early in a company's phase, you have to take a long-term approach here, which is how do I build a relationship over time? Really appreciate the conversation. Deep dive where we can find more information. I've got a few recommendations. Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. Story Brand, terrific one. We didn't really talk too much about branding today, but I think it's a great place to start. And They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And Amber, you're an international best-selling author with 2 books. Where can we find your books, and where can we find out more information about you?
Yeah, Amazon. You can get my book on Amazon. You can find me online, farbeyondmarketing.com or Far Beyond Marketing Guidebook.
Awesome. And again, your book is How to Stop Being Duped. I like it. We're being duped. Stop
Bastards.
being duped by bad marketing. Those bastards. Awesome. Appreciate the time, Amber. Thank you so much. Anthony, what do we have coming up on the show? Today's Tuesday, so we have another show Thursday.
We have another show that we're talking about creating a positive workplace culture with a great guest, Christian Espinoza. Amber, I'm sorry, I'm such a bad learner for you on this episode. I'm sorry that I'm struggling with this. You were actually great. I'm a terrible student, so I apologize for that. Everybody else that's listening in, thank you so much for joining us and leaning in. Just as a reminder, go to howtofounder.com. Click. You can find out how to subscribe with us. And for Chris's sanity and sake, please go leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Until next time, thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.